Hey everyone, it's December 26th, and that means that if today is your birthday, you share it with serial killer Randy Woodfield, known as the I-5 killer, who may have murdered as many as 44 victims in the late 1970s and early 80s. And that is him right up there. Born in Salem, Oregon in 1950, Woodfield had what appeared to be a normal upbringing. He was popular at school, had lots of friends, and played high school and collegiate football. But as a teen, he began to develop antisocial behaviors, including seeming to enjoy exposing himself to others. He was arrested for indecent exposure while still a student, but his football coaches covered it up so he could remain on the team. Imagine that. Woodfield was arrested multiple times for vandalism and public indecency in the early 1970s, but the Green Bay Packers still drafted him in 1974. He didn't last in the NFL, however, after picking up repeated arrests for indecent exposure, which led the team to drop him. You can only get away with that in the NFL if you're better at football than he was. Living in Portland once again, in 1975 his crimes became violent, robbing and sexually assaulting multiple women at knife point, being caught in a sting operation when he tried to attack an undercover policewoman. He was sent to prison for robbery, picking up a 10-year sentence. Woodfield served 4 years and was paroled in 1979, upon which he embarked on a 2-year robbery spree, stealing from gas stations, ice cream parlors, and homes up and down the I-5 corridor in the Pacific Northwest. He often sexually assaulted his female victims and eventually began to kill them as well, committing at least 3 murders, but possibly as many as 44. His first confirmed murder was in 1980 when a former classmate of his was raped and murdered in Portland, having been beaten and stabbed multiple times in the neck. Woodfield was investigated but refused to answer questions, and detectives couldn't find enough physical evidence to tie him to the murder scene. A month later, a husband and wife were shot to death in their own home, execution style. A friend of the wife had previously dated a friend of Woodfield, but again, not enough evidence was found to hold him for the crime. At the same time, a series of armed robberies were occurring along the 5 freeway, all the way from Washington State down to California, and some victims of the I-5 bandit were sexually assaulted and murdered. Woodfield was eventually caught in 1981 when another acquaintance of his was killed, and a search of his home turned up evidence of his having been at the crime scene. Chris Van Dyke, the son of Dick Van Dyke, was the district attorney of Marion County, Oregon, and he prosecuted the case. Woodfield was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison plus 90 years. He was only convicted of 3 murders, but to avoid the expense of dozens of additional trials, the state was satisfied knowing that he would never be released from prison. While in prison, an author wrote a book about him, and he sued her for $12 million for libel, but that suit was dismissed. He's been married 3 times while in prison, and he had a MySpace account in 2006, writing on his profile, "I'm Randy, I'm 55. I spend the remainder of my days in prison because I have committed a murder along with many other crimes. I once tried out for the Green Bay Packers. The only reason I didn't make it is because the skills I had to offer they didn't need at the time." No word on whether he's on TikTok or not. Woodfield remains behind bars in Oregon, where he will spend the rest of his days. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send in those videos so I can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Randy Woodfield, I say, happy birthday, you